Nowadays, people ask me, Nicolene, how do you start homeschooling your child? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to share some tried and true tips from a homeschooler, me. It's going to be good. I homeschooled my children from kindergarten all the way up, and I can tell you no matter when you start homeschooling, there are certain key things that you want to do. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what you can do to get your homeschool off to a good start and what you can expect out of your first year of homeschooling. For many years, I was the homeschool liaison for the school district and the state in the city where I lived. And so people would contact me regularly and say, okay, I'm thinking of homeschooling my children. What do I need to know? How do I do this? How do I get started? How's it going to go? Am I up to the challenge? Do I need a degree? What do I need to get going in this homeschool journey? And I would say, okay, there's a lot of questions there. Let's get started at the beginning. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to get started at the beginning and hopefully share with you things that you can predict for your future year, but also things that you might want to watch for that you did not know were going to be benefits of homeschooling too. Now, starting with younger children when they've never been to school before and starting with older children that have been to school before is different. Okay, so first let's talk about what it looks like when we start homeschooling when a child is really tiny. They've never been to school before. This is going to be the beginning of their homeschool journey. So what you do is you start young by developing this environment where learning is just part of the everyday life. So what does that look like? When I was a young mom and I had my oldest child, I decided that I was going to do 20 minutes a day of what I called mom school. So I was going to on purpose have developmental things that I would do with my child that would help him learn and grow academically, socially, and also spiritually. And I would put these things together in games or activities, books that we would read, and I would spend like 20 minutes. Now this was when he was like 2 and 3 and 4 years old. By the time he hit about 4 and 5 years old, then we bumped up the time. So we started doing mom school, sometimes maybe 45 minutes a day. If he lasted it, we even went longer than that because he started reading when he was 3. He wanted to read me stories. He wanted me to read him stories. So soon it just became this beautiful part of our culture where we would connect together every single day. So that was the beginning. Then as he got to the age where it would normally be kindergarten age, so age 5, I thought, well, should I get more rigid about this? Should I decide to have more of a schedule of what we're doing? So I read a book called A Thomas Jefferson Education, and A Thomas Jefferson Education introduced me to the philosophies of learning, okay, and the different phases that a person goes through when they learn. So I learned that there was this phase called core phase, where a person learned what was right and wrong, good and bad, true and false, and they learned it through work and play. So I decided I wanted reading to be play, and I wanted the early math stuff we were doing to be play, studying geography to be play, and then work was going to be us doing chores together. And we were going to make sure that everything had a moral foundation. So we decided to do that when they were little. And then the next phase of learning was going to be this love of learning phase. And they hit that phase when they're about 7 or 8 years old. And they decide they love learning. They want to learn everything they can. They want all the skills, all the topics. They may not finish it all, but they just go and sample everything all the time. So after love of learning phase, finally comes the scholar phase. This hits at about age 12. So when a person is 12, then they say, Mom, I need like 6 to 12 hours of study time every day. How do I fit that in? I need to schedule my life a little bit more. And they go along the scholar journey. After that comes depth phase, that's usually college. Then mission phase, where a person is giving back to the world. These are the phases of education. So if you think of those pieces, a very small sampling there, I realize, read A Thomas Jefferson Education by Oliver DeMille. It's going to give you a lot of things. You can also read many things by Charlotte Mason, who I love. She really understood how people learn. So also you can read her books as well, and any of the other people that have written companions to her books like Karen Andriola or Penny Robinson, and she also did a great book about Charlotte Mason as well. So I determined that instead of making sure that my child sat down to do do a workbook for every single thing, that instead I would develop that core of them, the morals and discussions, and I would teach them to truly love learning so that when they got a little bit older, they would naturally transition to this love of learning phase where they just couldn't get enough, and then transition to scholar as well. This was life-changing for our homeschool. Now, this didn't mean that it taught me how to teach them spelling or everything else. I had to figure out some of those things other ways. I read different curriculums and different ideas, and I sampled from things that I thought would help me, but I never made myself commit to going entirely through a curriculum. And the reason why was because I decided I was going to follow the phases that they were in more than what somebody said they needed to learn that year. So that's what I did. Now let's talk about if your child has been to school and what you can expect. But before I do that, hit the subscribe button. There are videos on this channel that come out about family relationships, parenting, homeschool. I think you're going to find a subscription to this channel super useful. Subscribe now. So if your child's been in school and you've decided, no, we're done with school, we are going to now do homeschooling, they have a certain method in their mind that they've been in now for a period of time, even if it was just 1 year or a certain amount of months. They think that's how learning happens. Well, there are a lot of formulas for learning. You don't have to go through the same exact process as everybody else. In fact, if there was one thing I learned, it's that education should not be on an assembly line. In fact, it should be tailored to where the child is at and what they need. So if your child is used to an assembly line, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to detox a little bit and say, what do you want to get out of our education? What type of experiences do we want to have? Do we want to go on field trips every week? Did you know we can do hands-on learning? Instead of just learning about electricity, we could literally rewire the house if we wanted to. Like, we could do anything because we have all the time at our fingertips. We don't run out of time when we're homeschooling, which is so awesome. You want to talk to your child about what they want and then say, let's just get our relationships in check. Let's just get connected to each other. And you're going to start reading to your child interesting things every single day. Things you would read a person who is a love of learner. Even if they're not a love of learner, you're going to start with books like that, like all the books about airplanes, all the books about bugs, and then books like Charlotte's Web. Even if the person is a little bit older, start reading and discussing some of these things. Also make sure you bring in some of your moral studies like scripture studies and devotionals, things like that, because that's going to be really helpful in connecting to all of the other information. So education is one thing, okay? Learning is one thing. It's a huge picture and you're never ever done. So go ahead in your homeschool and just hook all the pieces together. It makes it better for everybody else who's part of it. Number one is decide what you want to get out of it, how beautiful it can be, and then decide what you want your relationship development to be like. And then after that, start plugging in time frames. So you schedule your time, not your content, which means they don't have to get through with every lesson every day. You say, we're going to do 30 minutes of math. Well, when the 30 minutes is done, even if they only did 2 problems, they're done with math that day. It's okay, because learning is one big picture, so we don't need to worry if a person is caught up or not caught up. That means nothing to a homeschooler unless you're only homeschooling for a very, very short period of time. Then that might be something that is more of a concern to you. But if you know you're going to go the long haul, at least for a couple of years, you don't have to worry about staying caught up. If there's one thing I've seen, it's many homeschoolers decide to put their children in school when they're in like junior high and high school, and they're like, oh no, I'm not sure if they'll be caught up because they didn't keep track of it at all. And when they get there, they're actually way ahead of everybody else in most subjects. Occasionally there might be a subject that they're a little behind in, but you know what? They catch up pretty fast because, well, you pretty much don't have a choice. You just have to go through the book when you're there. So anyway, don't worry about that. Just start learning together and making it a bonding experience. So let's talk about what you can expect that first year, okay? If it's the first year with a little tiny one and you're just getting started, you can expect tons of bonding, them working with you, you studying about your family stories, like your genealogy, and studying about exciting things like their letters and how to sound them out, and everything is like light bulb, and it's so much fun. In fact, you should get creative and show them that homeschooling is about creativity and about doing great things together as a family. What can you expect when the child has been to school before, but then you're starting to homeschool now, and there's a big difference, you might expect them to get very excited at first. In fact, they'll look forward to a lot of the fun times that they're having, but then you'll see them get lazy. So you've got to be ready for that because they're used to somebody telling them exactly what to do every second of the day. It's all scheduled out over at the school. Well, when you're at home and you just have time blocks, sometimes they feel like, well, what's the point? There's no test. Well, no one ever bothered to ask, what was the point of the test anyway? There isn't a point. So if you want to give them verbal tests or if you want them to show you things, you can do that if it feels like you're going to hold them more accountable. What I usually did to substitute for having any tests of any information that we would learn is I would have projects. So if we were going to memorize all of Mother Goose, then we're going to be working toward a party where it is a Mother Goose themed party and we're going to have people over. If we're going to study medieval times, then we are going to have a medieval banquet with some of our friends or family members or cousins. We're going to eat on trenchers and with our hands and all the stuff. You know, we're going to get ready so it's authentic. We might even make clothing for it. So this is going to be the test. Can you actually do the simulation or the project? Now, sometimes projects turn to papers or art projects, things like that as well. You can pick any of those things, but at first I would keep it very engaging, a whole lot about the relationship and doing things together, because that really has to fill in for some of the social that they might feel like they are missing. Don't forget that home is the first social unit of society, and it really can fill the bill for any person, even though it seems like there's less people and there might not be somebody there the exact age of your child. The bond that they have with you will go much further in their lives than the bonds that they develop with other people. No matter where your child's at, whether they are tiny and have never been to school or they went to school before but now they're homeschooling, there is something you absolutely must do when you are starting, and that is decide what your morning is going to look like. The morning is the most important part of the school day. The brain is the freshest, it's been nourished the most, hopefully, overnight, and it's been rested. So what is your morning going to look like? In our family, we did our family canon, which included our scriptures and prayer, and we would also do our memorizations, and I would read to the children and we would discuss. And then after that immediately came math because, well, it's morning. And you might as well just get math done, because what I found is in a lot of families, unless they love math, math stays to the end. And then that's the part where the parents feel like they might be failing in the child's education. There is some good news I have for you though, and that is that if a person loves learning, which is one of the goals of education at my house, then that means that they can learn everything K through 12 in 4 years if they love learning. So your first goal, get them to love learning, create that environment, and then let the learning happen. Introduce them to all kinds of things that you think might even be above their level, and let them see that they get to learn things at their house that are cool, that maybe even nobody else gets to know at school. So don't just follow the example of the school, do your own thing and help the child get a truly stellar education. And in the meantime, bond to you and your family in such a beautiful way. If you have enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy another video that directly could impact your homeschool day. This video is called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. It is a class that I give at homeschool conferences sometimes, and I highly recommend you go and look at that because your homeschool day can definitely fall into an expectation trap. So instead, prepare yourself for the cycle for success. Click on that video now, and I'll see you there.